So I'm going to talk today about some work that we did or we're continuing to do on over the last couple of years on the topic of privacy and fairness of online targeted advertising. Now, the key point that I want to make here is that there is a traditional view of online targeted ads that needs to be changed, and it's time to update our view of these targeted ads. The traditional view is that these online ads are the dominant revenue source for internet services. Much of Facebook, Twitter, Google, if you look at their revenues, online ads make up the bulk of their revenues and profits. And they're also the dominant source of privacy problems online. They are the ones that incentivize online services to gather our personal data. And the traditional view is that ads are a nuisance. Allowing advertisers to target us results in annoying ads. And therefore, and the primary goal of these ads is to nudge us towards buying products we probably don't need. And therefore, a lot of people over the years have started using ad blockers. But in this context, if I were to say that there could be unfairness in targeted advertising, that might almost seem like a strange thing. If we don't want ads in the first place, how can there be unfairness in targeted advertising? Well, it's because the type of ads that are being launched on these services have changed, or at least there are new categories of ads that are being shown. One of them are the opportunity ads. And opportunity ads are ads related to employment, housing, financial services. These are ads where somebody announces that their apartment is for sale. Now, in these kinds of ads, which we are calling as opportunity ads, discrimination can be a big problem. In fact, there have been numerous studies that over the last couple of years have shown that sometimes employers target people in a discriminatory way when they want to advertise some ads. Like, for example, ads from the construction industry are primarily targeted towards males. And similarly, there have been papers that showed that it's possible to use Facebook ad platform to advertise your apartment only to people of certain ethnic groups and excluding others from even receiving such opportunity ads. The other big issue that shows up is the potential for, in some sense, inflaming social discord by targeting very divisive issue ads. Now, issue ads, unlike product ads, which we are used to, the goal of an issue ad is to change the mindset of the people that they're targeting. The goal is to change the opinion of someone on the topics like on social topics, like immigration or Brexit or same-sex marriage or abortion. So here I'm showing an example of an ad that was run in 2016 US presidential elections, where this advertiser is trying to target people saying that it's about anti-immigration ad. Now, the important thing here is the goal of these ads, these divisive issue ads sometimes, are not even to convince people to vote towards a particular party. So for instance, and I'm going to come to this in a few minutes, there are external people who are not even involved in a state's election that might run ads targeting the different groups of people with topics that aggravate them so that they will continue to, so that they can actually increase the social discord and increase partisanship in the society rather than bring them together. In fact, during the 2016 elections, there were some agencies that were related to Russia that were suspected of having run these ads whose primary goal is to, or was to, make the Democrats and the Republicans hate each other and feel that the election is more partisan rather than try to convince them towards supporting one side or the other. The primary goal itself is very different. Now, what I'm going to do next is briefly describe at a very high level two pieces of work that we've done on these two topics. So the first one is about discrimination in online targeted advertising, or the potential for it. And this is particularly relevant for opportunity ads. Now, let me tell you the state of the art for mitigating discrimination. And this is how Facebook reacted when they realized that that housing ads and employment ads are being placed in a discriminatory way. The policy they announced was to ban the use of sensitive features in some types of ad targeting. Now, what is this some types of ad targeting and who certifies the ad type? They expect advertisers to declare when they're running a housing ad or an employment ad that they are running such a type of ad. And depending on the type of ad that you want to place, you're restricted in terms of what sort of features you could use to target people on Facebook. So for example, if you were running a housing ad or one of these opportunity ads, you wouldn't be allowed to use features like ethnic affinity. Whereas you would be able to use features like likely to move or the interests of people in buying a house and so on. Now, the question, of course, is the state of the art sufficient? Now, beyond this, the point of relying on advertisers to self-declare the type of ad, there are some deeper problems with this, and I'm going to quickly go through some of them. So the first one is there are lots of features that are available for targeting beyond the features that are banned. So for example, if you look at Facebook ad platform, we did a study that showed that Facebook allows people to be targeted using 1,100 what are known as curated attributes. And these are attributes like that are related to people's behaviors, people's demographics, and people's interests, as shown at the top of the screen. And in addition, there are 240,000 more free-form attributes that Facebook tries to infer for every user. And these things include things like whether somebody might have an interest in same-sex relationship, whether what their religious leaning might be, and whether they have some sort of addictions even. And today, an advertiser can use any of these attributes to pick and choose who on what type of people they want to target on Facebook. Now, the problem is, even if you ban some specific features like ethnic affinity to avoid discrimination, there are many other features among this 1,100 and 240,000 that are actually quite correlated with that ethnic affinity. So effectively, they could be used as proxies for selecting people. So what I'm showing in this table is some data that we gathered from Facebook, where we were showing there are features like, in this particular case, let's say we want to target or exclude people who are blacks in the US. This is data from the US Facebook site. Even if you're banned from using the first feature, which is African American, if you use features like US politics or interest in gospel music or interest in hair products, it turns out that according to Facebook's inference, what I'm showing in the third column there is a fraction of black population on Facebook who are interested, who Facebook identifies as having such interests, and that's quite high, around 40 to 50%. Whereas for the rest of the people, the interest percentages are shown in the fourth column. So these sorts of correlated features could be used as proxies for identifying people of a particular ethnic affinity. And similarly, there are other features, like, for example, whether someone is very conservative leaning in US politics or interest in activities like hiking and camping that are actually quite closely correlated with the ethnic affinity of people on Facebook. And these could once again be used as proxies for running discriminatory ads. So this is one reason why the current state of the art is not sufficient, but it goes beyond that. Facebook also allows something known as PII-based targeting, which is personally identifiable information-based targeting. This means if you have email IDs or phone numbers or names and addresses of people, you could just upload them in a text file to Facebook ad platforms, and Facebook will try to match the corresponding people using the information it has, and then you can target exactly those people. Now, the problem is there are many public sources of PII records, which include sensitive feature information. So for example, multiple states in the US make their voter ID records public. So we paid $10 to get the voter ID records of everybody who is registered to vote in North Carolina. And it has names, the address, phone numbers, year of birth, gender, ethnicity, and party information for everybody who has registered to vote in the state of North Carolina. Now, using this, you could just pull individual pieces of information like names and addresses, and you could target specific people on Facebook. In fact, when we checked a random sample of this population, we found that you could target a fairly large fraction of each of the registered voters across different races on Facebook. Now, just imagine the problem with this kind of targeting, right? So if I wanted to actually target only to people of a particular race, the housing ad, then I could just I can pull the names and addresses of the Black or the Asian users or from the voter records, and I can just upload them to Facebook, and I can target exactly that population and exclude everyone else. And in the process, I'm not actually it's not even running foul with the state-of-the-art protections. So the point, once again, is PII-based targeting is a dangerous loophole that allows all forms or all types of discriminatory targeting. And finally, as if all this is not sufficient, Facebook has another feature which it offers, which is called lookalike audience targeting. And what this means is once you specify a certain set of people to target on Facebook, you could ask Facebook to mine its own data to find other users who are similar to the initial set of users that you originally provided Facebook. Now, we wanted to examine whether the similarity assessments are correlated with race. And in the interest of time, I'm going to skip over this graph, but basically what this graph shows is there is a very strong correlation between the correlation in terms of race being a factor in the similarity choice with lookalike audience targeting. So you could select, if you selected a set of people of a particular race to target, and then you could ask Facebook to find other people who are similar and who belong to a similar race, thereby expanding or exacerbating the kind of discrimination you could do with your targeted ads. So in short, the takeaway here is that avoiding discriminatory ad targeting is actually notoriously hard. And while this is a problem that has been recognized and some solutions have been put in place, they're far from being adequate to tackle them. Then I want to very briefly mention another study that we did, and this is about micro-targeting socially divisive ads. And here what we did was it is a study of Russia-linked ad campaigns on Facebook in the 2016 elections. So in the 2016 US presidential elections, there were a number of ads that were run that were considered to be very divisive, and the House Democrats released a set of these ads. Now, these ads were trying to spread divisive and polarizing content. In some sense, these are the topics that these ads covered, which is related to race or crime or policing and immigration and so on. Now, the one thing about these ads is that they were incredibly efficient in terms of how they were micro-targeted. So what I'm showing here is the click-through rates of typical ads that are run on Facebook. Most ads have 1% to 2% click-through rates, whereas these ads that were run by Russia-related agencies, they had a 10 to 20 times higher click-through rate, which shows the remarkable efficiency with which somebody is able to target these socially divisive ads. These ads that are spreading discontent. Now, the ad platforms today, unfortunately, help people with these kinds of targeting. In fact, if you type in so this was some screenshots of some that we took from this was just before the last UK parliamentary elections. And at the time, if you typed in a particular politician names, these ad platforms would helpfully suggest to you other interests of people that you could use to essentially micro-target people who might be interested in issues that the politicians actually might care about. These are the sorts of ways in which Facebook helps people or political advertisers even to micro-target these ads. In fact, we did a study that showed that of the ads that were targeted by Russia, a lot of the features that were used to target the ads seem to have been suggested by Facebook itself. Now, the question, so today, the way Facebook is trying to deal with this is to make these ads transparent. And in the process, they often rely even on crowd reporting when they see an ad that is socially divisive. Now, the problem with these crowd reports often is that at a very high level, what I'm showing in these pictures is a set of ads. And how liberals versus conservative-leaning people would report these ads, and these are the Russia-linked ads. So what we found in this study at a high level is people, liberals and conservatives, disagree, understandably, disagree quite a bit on what type of ads they find appealing, and their reporting patterns and their tendency to detect false claims also correlate strongly with their political affiliation. That means the high order bit here is if targeting actually aligns very well, that means if you're targeting the people who are actually likely to believe in the ad, the divisive ad that you're running, they're actually less likely to report it. So we cannot just rely on crowd reports for this purpose. And here I'm showing just two different ads. One on the left side is something that liberals said in our survey would report, but not conservatives. And this is an anti-immigrant ad. And the right side is an ad that conservatives would report, but not liberals. And this is about Islamophobia. So the takeaway here, once again, is issue ads and divisive ads are increasingly being made transparent. But on the other hand, there are some really big picture open questions as to how to efficiently determine whether an ad is divisive and how to avoid efficient micro-targeting of these divisive ads.